go with Haiti. So there are 5 countries that are going to be like fully solidifying
So
from
the B Corp
next year.
certification you received was for your operations all over or for operations in India?
eKutir received it, right? So eKutir received it largely for its work that it does across different subsidiaries. It's not specific to a geography. It's not even specific to operations. And you would have seen the categories as well, right? So
Yeah.
it encompasses those 5 categories. And because the group company got B Corp certified, we were told that all of your subsidiaries are automatically certified as B Corp. So to be honest, eKutir is not the only B Corp. All of the subsidiaries under eKutir in India and one in the States, they are all B Corps.
Yeah, that's quite a list. Around, I think, 846 companies spread all over. And I think eKutir is the only one from India.
Yeah.
So that's quite a feat, I think. And that's interesting too as well, because probably that points to the fact that maybe there isn't much awareness about B Corp certification in India. Can I say so? I mean,
Well, not exactly, but there are a couple of organizations and social enterprises that have moved into the space of initiating the assessment, but they haven't gone forward and certified themselves as B Corps. That's one. There can be ounces of reasons for that, which I might not be aware of. But one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that it's a certification that involves a fee as well. You don't get certified for free, right? It's a service that they are providing. They're also providing access to other B Corp network, access to resources that are interested in joining B Corps, access to so many other services that you can entail out of that. And at the same time, they're also providing you ways and measures to successfully traverse the path of being a company that does social and environmental good and also works to improving each one of the 5 categories they are looking at. So all of this put together, that could be one stumbling block. You have, I believe, Organic India, or however, their US counterpart is B Corp.
Organic India, okay.
Yeah, Organic India, the US counterpart is a B Corp. So if you there's an annual B Corp summit that happens every September or October. Now this time, last year I was there in Philadelphia as one of the fellows, but this year I won't be going. It's happening in Toronto in the first week of October. So Organic India is one of the sponsors for that summit too. So that's last year I got to know that Organic India is also B Corp certified. But the US counterpart is, not the India one.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, Suvankar, what I have in mind is that I want to run a blog series, which probably, based on our last discussion, would be a 2-part series, since you mentioned that overall category as well as customer, the 2 categories where you would like to discuss. And so what we're going to do is that I want to understand from you specific practices that you have followed or you have adapted and you have implemented throughout eKutir that allowed you to get certified in these 2 particular areas. So we may take one area. So you may wish to take one area at this time, and then we can take another area at another time if there is a paucity of time. Or we could discuss both the day itself, depending on how much time you have. And then what I will do is once, so I'm recording this broadcast. It's not a public broadcast, so nobody else can get. But I'm recording it simply because I don't have to make notes while you're talking.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
To it, and it then saves a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
So recording that. And I think I'll leave it to you. So I think let's start with overall certification, and then we can move on to specifically about customers. And in general, based on the data that you submitted to B Lab, what is it? It must have given a span of operations of eKutir, right? That we are in so many countries, we are with so many employees. Can you just give me a gist of that to get a sense of how big the operation is?
Okay, so from an operational purview, if you want to know, eKutir is specifically within the entire span of operations that we're currently doing. We are working with close to about 800 through 900 entrepreneurs that are spread across agriculture and sanitation, which cumulatively are
the rural areas.
correct,
Okay.
the micro entrepreneurs, and which cumulatively now reach to almost 150,000 people. So roughly about 50 through 70,000 household penetration that we have. So this is happening largely in India as well as in Nepal, but we've also accounted for the projects that we ran in Bangladesh and in Cambodia. So there were specific projects, and we're no longer sustaining or taking part in those projects. But right now we are back into just focusing in growth within India and in Nepal per se. So that is the total operational span that we have. But if you look at how fast we are looking at growing, especially from the agriculture, the agtech, and the fintech point of view, which is one company, we're looking at reaching 1 million farmers in the next 3 years. It's in a way it's going to be an arduous task, but it's something that is attainable. Looking at the spread of how we have been able to stabilize and make the platform and the business robust right at its start. So between India and Nepal, reaching 1 million farmers is not going to be that difficult, but it's still going to be an arduous process. Then with Swadha, that's involved in water sanitation and hygiene, but largely on the sanitation market. It's growing month on month very fast. So we have close to about 543 micro entrepreneurs that further reach out to close to about 125,000 people, which should be roughly 40 to 45,000 people that have sanitation systems installed in their households. So that's operating largely in Odisha and Bihar. But we've also done work in Maharashtra, largely in the Vidarbha region, and in Madhya Pradesh as well. So these two companies specifically are growing well, and they have a vision to grow very fast too.
You did, and the second one is which one you said? The name I didn't get.
Swadha, Svadha.
Swadha. Okay. So these are the part of the conglomerate, if you will.
Right, they're part of the group. So one is eKutir Global, which would look after agtech and fintech. That is my brainchild. And the second one is Swadha, which is Casey and me who started it, but Casey is taking a lead with another female CEO.
Okay. Okay. So the certification is for both these companies.
Right. The certification is for the group company, and therefore the subsidiary companies do get the certification too.
Okay, sure. So in your view, can you name some of the top, at least at a macro level, the business practices that the group follows, which you think was a significant factor in getting a BCorp certification?
I believe the first and the foremost criteria to getting a BCorp certification was to have a consensus amongst co-founders, the entrepreneurs, on what their intent and mindset is when it comes to eKutir as a business. and eKutir put forth as a benefit corporation. Now, we as co-founders are convergent and conquer on one important aspect, is that we want to create or curate a future of food and socio-economic development, which has a multiplier effect on the smallholder farming communities. And in order to do so, we want to do it in a manner that is not only equitable, but also financially sustainable for the organization. So the theory of change, which encompasses multiple assumptions from the diffusions theory to the inductive theorizing to social capital and social network theory, talks about how eKutir's market-driven, enterprise-based, and digitally enabled platform and business model, it creates a holistic ecosystem that creates every stakeholder to participate in helping address a need, a cause, a problem in the market, largely within the smallholder market. And so right at the mindset level, we have been able to understand that this is what is required, that not only is a socio-economic development important, but whilst we do that, a financial sustainability of the organization is hugely critical. So if you ask me a question, would I, as a founder of this company, sacrifice financial sustainability for social impact? My answer would be no, I would not. Because financial sustainability is the first and the foremost aspect of curating a rapid and a growing social impact. If you are able to create macroeconomic indicators of showing that your customers are doing well, then definitely you can show indicators of value that you want to draw back into your company to make yourself.
So, sorry to interrupt, but does B Lab, so B Lab looks at it that way as well, that they would.
Of course, yes.
Yes, so
yes, that's
I'm assuming that's the reason why. So they must have, when they looked at your submission, they saw that probably your financial sustainability is quite in place, and hence you have the ability to make an impact. So that's how it works generally for this, as far as this
right. And because B Lab only certifies for profit companies, not for profit companies don't get a certification. You have to, it's changing the paradigm of conducting and sustaining business. So they really want to know that from a socially and environmentally focused enterprise, what is the specific problem that we are trying to address? And eKutir is targeting to improve economic opportunity or social economic empowerment, market access through previously unavailable infrastructure, the network of micro entrepreneurs. Even though it was always available, we are reinforcing and strengthening that network. And we service nonprofit organizations as well, which are part of the existing value chain. They can participate in our ecosystem, and other purpose-driven enterprises with other capacity building and partnership needs that they have. And in the due process, we focus on alleviating poverty through our supply chain. That's what we are, the value chain-based company. Then we focus on sourcing and partnering with fair wage certified suppliers. That's our focus. We're not able to do that 100%, but we are targeting to move towards that direction. Provide technical assistance and capacity building to even the small scale suppliers and individuals, the micro retailers converted into micro entrepreneurs, and guaranteeing future purchases and payments with contracts, which Swadha, of course, does when it is purchasing and procuring inventory, and which we do it for the farmers when we show them the future market for selling their produce. So
these are all broad areas, different areas that were considered for the overall score.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these from an impact business model perspective, this is where it is considered. And as I mentioned, it all starts from the mindset and the intent of the entrepreneur, and where we have signed a contract and a board resolution, and it's a philosophy, it's a memoranda that exists, that not only would we be a certified B Corp, but we are also a public benefit corporation in the United States. As a legally registered entity, we are a corporation, but we are a public benefit corporation. That means in our mission statement, in our articles of association, societal and public benefit is also kept at an equal weightage with financial and stakeholder and stockholder benefit.
All right. So does that mean, as they say, triple bottom line? So in reality, do you actually have a double or a triple bottom line where you report those numbers accordingly?
Yeah. So with B Corp, we have to do it once every 2 years across all the categories that I mentioned too, from workers to community to environment to governance to customers and impact. And that goes without saying. If you want to be in the overall category or in the customers category or in the change makers category, you have to make sure that you are still as good as the first numerical figure of 140 that eKutir received in 2016. So we are up for reassessment in 2018. Now, we do have partnerships with academia and other research institutions for unbiased third-party evaluations of our impact business models. And that it is those research papers, anecdotes, and case studies that strengthen eKutir's case. And the most recent one being published a couple of months back was by Deloitte, which puts eKutir at the pedestal of being socially impactful and financially sustainable, and therefore scalable from its growth perspective.
So these assessments from third parties, they help a lot in strengthening your case for certification, or irrespective of this?
Irrespective of this, I mentioned that it's
has a team which will which will verify all of your claims, and then resultingly they'll have a score.
Right. Yes. So I mean that's for B Lab to do. From our side, again, I mentioned this is from my perspective, the imperative driving this entire evaluation is to make sure that there is continual feedback of what we do to improve, to innovate, and to stay ahead of the game. Innovation is something, as I have also mentioned earlier, design thinking is one of the critical ways eKutir functions. And design thinking is futile if it does not include the people that have a problem, that you have to work with them to identify a problem. While eKutir would know what one problem is, they would know what one problem would be. But when we come together and design a problem together that we accept and agree to, that becomes the problem on which a solution needs to be designed. And that needs to happen in a recurring manner. You do have the root of the problem solved, but then there are other peripheral problems that would arise, not only from the customer's perspective, but also from an organizational, value chain, business, workforce, community engagement perspective. So one needs to keep solving that aspect, and one needs to keep curating it.
So Ankar, I'll just understand more the nitty-gritties of the certification. So first of all, how long is the process of certification?
Well, it depends. For us, it was 4 months, February through, actually January through April, mid of May. We finished everything back and forth of evaluation, cross-evaluation, and final evaluation. And I believe the first week of June was when we got the official news for certification.
Is there a specific time period when they release the certification or the list of the honoraries?
No, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing. So it's not that maybe it's every June or every September or...
No, it's ongoing.
It's on rolling basis. Okay.
Yeah.
So typical, is that the time, is that the average time it takes for organizations to get certified? It's 4 months.
I believe some organizations take more than that too. Depends upon if how focused they are to finishing this. Now, from eKutir side, I was the only one involved in this process for the entire 4 months, and thus knowing the business inside out and knowing where the future lies of this business made it easier for me. And if the founders are not involved in this process, and if they delegate this work to any employee, I do believe it's going to take more time. I mean, it's a responsibility of the founder to be an equal participant in this process. Makes the entire work easier.
Makes sense. So help me through the process. So they had a team visiting India as well as
no, they don't. They randomly pick different B Corps across the globe, and I believe they're going to pick up eKutir because eKutir is India's only B Corp, and they would want to come down to India before they begin the process of recertification next year. The visit to the country for the first certification is not mandatory, but the way the questions have been framed, come on, they're close to about 3,000 B Corps, so, and they are constantly curating and changing the weightages given to each and every question. So the answers to the question that I've given, when they cross-examine you, they always touch upon those questions that are really pertinent, and then they want to listen to your answer, go through the answer that you've given, and then more often than not, you have to change the answer so that it finally changes your certification. So it was a back and forth process. The first time my score was given, it came down to, the first score that was highlighted was 118. Then it moved to 126, and the final score that was given was 140. But most of them go down. Like you've Ben & Jerry's, that's at 110, right? eKutir is at 140. You have Patagonia, which is, I believe, 108 to 107. eKutir is still 140. So if you look at most of the B Corps and you look at eKutir, eKutir basically aced it because of our impact business models. Our customer impact, our customer impact measurement, and our logic model, which shows the outputs, outcome, and impact for the work that we do.
How good is 140 as a score? Can you help me understand how good is 140 as a score? As in, is it in the top 10 percentile, or typically most businesses score above 100?
Well, 140 is
140 because as of now it's just a number to me, and by the and I know that it's out of 200. So definitely,
no, it's not out of 200. It's like a raw score, okay, and it's a scale score which is weighted. So that means all the questions that I'm answering across the 40-page document, they are not equally weighted.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Some have less weightage, some have more weightage, some have no weightage.
And you wouldn't know what the weightage is.
Well, it's there. I mean, they're transparent enough to show me against every question when I'm filling it up, depending upon how full the circle is. Is that an
online process where you go access it online and fill it up?
Exactly.
Okay. And how many questions are there in totality, across all the assessment categories?
Oh, well, I won't remember, but there are so many questions. I believe if I convert it into a PDF document, it's a 40-page document.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm not writing any answers, by the way. I'm either ticking or using a radio box or a multi-selection box.
Okay. So it's like objective selection. What do you call the...
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not a subjective.
Then the objective selection leads to subjective evaluation, which happens in multiple rounds. Finally, that changes your scores again and again till the time the evaluation committee is satisfied with all the answers and materials that you have given to them to authenticate and validate whatever answers you have provided.
So, so is it that the team assesses your score based on or by questioning you, or they have some kind of a field visit as well where
No, they don't have a field visit for the first certification that they provide, but I told you, right, the weightages of the questions and the questions that they actually pick up while talking to you, they are spot on and they are pertinent to your overall scoring. That's why I said my scoring somehow, because of the questions that they actually picked up, which I had in the back of my mind, they will definitely pick up these questions. And they did. It was fundamentally important for them to understand what is your business process and what is it that you do. I mean, it's across all the categories. It's not only in the category of impact business models, it could be in the category of governance as well, which basically says, for example, does your company routinely engage and seek feedback from the local community about the company's business activities and social and environmental performance? If yes, select which methods are used for the feedback. And this question is heavily weighted, as compared to an equally weighted question, which would be, are there key performance indicators or metrics that your company tracks on at least an annual basis to determine if you're meeting your social and environmental objectives? That is equally weighted. But the one before that was heavily weighted. So you see how this question is going back and forth.
Do you submit documents, certain documents as well as a part of the process?
Yeah.
Like for example, in the question that you just mentioned, when you say you seek feedback,
Right.
does that mean you have to submit some kind of feedback form where you sample feedback form for them to know whether? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Like your ethnographic surveys and reporting and feedback loop systems that you have. Yes, we have to.
Okay.
I mean, heavily weighted questions, it is mandatory to have documentation ready. Equally weighted, they will get to know which questions they will check with you during the interview. And in accordance to that, they will ask you for a resubmission of documents.
Right, right. So these are all submitted online?
Yeah, you email it to them after the interview. Then they come back for another interview. Then, as and when the evaluation committee is not satisfied, the number of interviews keep going. So it was easy for me. I did it in 2 shots. Some companies just keep going.
You just had 2 rounds of
interview after I submitted my first assessment. The first assessment gave me a score of 118. The first interview led to a score of 120.
Right.
The final assessment led to a score of 140, which was an equal shock for me because that basically just bamboozled over to the top. 140 would be roughly around, I cannot categorically point out to what percentile it is, but it is a raw score format. So if you look at the categorization, you need 90 or 98 and above to be certified as, sorry, I believe you need 85 through 98, somewhere is the raw score, to be certified as a B Corp. Anywhere between 70 to 80, you are still a sustainable business, but anywhere below 70, you are a traditional and an unsustainable business. So the likes of Ben & Jerry's and Patagonia and Etsy and a lot of investment firms are also certified as B Corps, like Sonnen Capital, Big Path Capital, Equilibrium Capital. So these, they all have different scores, and you can get the list of all scores online as well. So
what do you mean by raw score? Why you say raw score? Why is?
I mean, it's a raw score because it's based on different weightages, right? It's not a percentage. So you cannot say that 140 by 200 times.
It's not a percentile. Okay. Yeah.
It's not a percentile. It's not a percentage.
It's an absolute number.
Yeah, it's an absolute number. And you can go from 140 to even 180. But it means that your heavily weighted answers to the questions should be phenomenally good. And I don't think there is any B Corp that has more than 150 as a score.
Come again, what's the score you said?
I mean, I believe there's no B Corp that has a raw score of more than 150.
So you are actually doing phenomenally good, I must say.
I mean, as I mentioned, I was taken aback when I finally saw the score of 140 because.
Does that put pressure on you?
In a good way. Not in a bad way. In a good way, largely because I mentioned it's a carrot and stick model. Carrot because you're certified and you're like, well, you're the best, one of the best. And then you're like, well, I need to make sure that I don't screw up. But Well, there are companies, like you have companies from United States, like Alter Eco. Its score is 148. You have Archie's Acres. It's into agriculture and forest management in California. It's freaking 149. You have Bazani Building Company, 147. You have a Beneficial State Bank, 165. I think that's the first one that I knew that had above 150. You have Caravella Coffee in Colombia, it's 152. And you have Cooperative Home Care Associates, 154. Council Fire LLC, 162. You'd have heard about D-Light, like the solar company. So that's similar to eKutir.
Clearly, these are high-scoring companies, so they're doing certain things right in a big way. But what, according to you, are they doing right? If you have to like generalize it.
Well, I believe the most important areas where we need to improve. So when we did the overall feedback, when we received the feedback, I can just go through it quickly. In our benchmarking that we had, there's a 9-page document where we had above average responses. So for example, other businesses where they were earning around, they were earning far less points than we were. eKutir was basically earning 100% in those categories of questions. Compared to other businesses that were either earning 67 or 44 or 45 or 75 or 37 or 46, eKutir was at 100%. And those were mostly on the impact business model side. Yeah, they were mostly on the impact business model side and the community management side. Where we need to actually start improving is on the governance and workforce engagement side. And this is where I believe we would shoot up and change rapidly, because impact business models...
That feedback as well, that these are the areas where you need to improve.
Right, and every year there's an inclusive challenge where every B Corp has to take up a challenge across any one or multiple categories that they would like to improve upon. And for me, I've chosen governance and workforce to be the pertinent categories I want to focus upon.
So governance would mean corporate governance.
Correct. How the organization is governed, governing principles, governing metrics, governing KPIs, and so on and so forth. So that is equally indispensable for the growth. And I'm not concerned about impact business models because we are really good at that. I am not concerned with community engagement as well. We are pretty strong with that too. It's the workforce engagement, like certain principles and policies were about to get into shape, but they were supposed to get into shape in the fiscal year 2016 and 17. And we were certified before that. And now they are back in shape. So when we get reassessed, we will get to know how strong we are during that process. So at any given point in time, I really don't want to. Right, 2018. At any given point in time, I'm not interested in looking at eKutir going down.
Current assessment. Sorry? The current assessment where you scored 140 took place last year.
Yeah.
Which is in 2016, between January to April.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of, so B Corps, as you said, are for-profit companies. So at some point, they might be seeking equity investment.
They do, yeah.
Does this score, help equity investment or raising funds for the company?
Well, specifically for me, I haven't explored companies that only invest in B Corps, but we have been reached out by investors that only look at B Corps for investment. And we are at different stages of discussion with them, but nothing has reached fruition to date. But we do have open discussions going on and engagements happening as we speak. And I believe speaking and talking with these investors, and there are plenty of them across the globe, has a good influence in terms of, at least from the outset, you have a matchmaking that impact and financial sustainability go hand in hand. You're not just looking at a traditional way of acquiring returns and just not even focusing on the impact. So looking at an impact and a financial return has to be a homogeneous, a counterbalancing effect.
Okay. So I think the category where you scored the highest is probably customer engagement.
Right. The impact business models.
Can you help me understand certain specific practices or that differentiate you and that probably helped you score higher in this particular assessment category? Some of the things you would call out.
So the first thing is design thinking, which initiates the entire development of an ecosystem, and how multiple iterations of a platform, of a product and service that eKutir comes out is carried forward before it is commercialized by the company. That is one of the fundamental pieces of our work. The second important aspect is the feedback mechanism that we have. The success of the customers and their growth is equally important for our growth as well. The third is how we also bring in external evaluators and third-party assessment agencies, apart from BLab, that will do it from their side, to help us evaluate our performance and growth on a periodic basis. Then the fourth important point is we have very stringent KPIs and goals and milestones that converge throughout the organization. And it starts right at the top, goes to the bottom, then the goals that come from the bottom then open up to the top as well, to understand if there is absolute concurrence in what the company is looking at, which could mean that, well, if the target is, I want to reach 1 million farmers in 3 years, each farmer needs to have a user base of 5,000 users, then that means in 36 months, I need 5,000 users. So I critically have to divide and say that every month, I should be acquiring close to about 120 users. So 120 users is downgraded to 6 users on a daily basis that should be acquired. That means your target should be 18. So every time anyone goes out to acquire these users, they should be meeting 18 to 20 people, because actual conversion will happen on a 1/3 basis. So 1 out of 3 will agree to be your user. So that is how fundamentally it's divided. So in the 20 users, we then draw a map. I'm specifically talking about my AgTech work. Swada does it differently as well, but because Swada is part of eKutir, we also land up cross-leveraging their network with ours and vice versa. So we then draw a digital map and see what is the digital penetration. And from there, we go forward and understand what is the low-hanging fruit. From the low-hanging fruit, who are the typical users? And from the typical users, who are the sticky users? Everything is a flow. Everything is a process. So the process, the underpinning nature to that process is design thinking, right? Right to understanding the problem, to curating the solution, iterating it, and then putting it to overall commercialization. So that's what we are absolutely focused upon from this perspective. And this is what requires efficient monitoring from a business and operations side, and then a third-party evaluation to look at the entire logical array of your outcomes and impact from an individual, community, ecosystem, and organizational level. And that's what I keep on focusing upon to become strong at. Not just exist and work for the sake of it, but work with metrics, with improvements, and as I mentioned, stay ahead of the game. if eKutir, when eKutir envisions to create the future, we need to be playing in the future. And we need to look at how all of that percolates through. So when I mentioned about design thinking last time as well, I also mentioned to you two other critical things which I absolutely love. One is leapfrogging, and the second one is ambidexterity. Now, the concept of ambidexterity is a governing principle where the innovation that drives your company is democratized. But you only have a few set of people that run that innovation. And you separate them out from the people that are running execution and implementation. But you still have a conduit that connects both of them without one affecting the other and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And this ambidexterity model is hugely critical so that, for example, I can sit down and look at what's happening from the implementation purview and understand how a digital platform will help farmers today leapfrog in increasing their income and production. Even though they are not direct users of a digital technology, they are beneficiaries. And then come back to my innovation lab and then understand that how do I innovate intuitive intelligence and intuitive AI into my platform that reacts and helps in decision making for these farmers in the near future. And then again, I come back with more data and then apply it to all the other metrics and other trends in technology and growth that's happening, which is how do I apply blockchain technology, a distributed ledger system, to allow transactions to happen between a farmer and a financial institution, a farmer and a buyer, or a farmer and a supplier. So all of those new technologies, they are part of the innovation that are springing through implementation. And it's ambidexterity. But any innovation that we do is helping them leapfrog faster in the growth. So that is still something that we are fostering to have a good balance equation on. It's not always balanced. It's not an idealistic system. It's always a chaos. But as I mentioned, within the chaos, there is a beautiful organized way of looking into things and patterns and systems that emerge from that. So I believe that that is something that has been sustaining eKutir for a good amount of time.
Now, out of all these categories that you have, I assume that each of them have a different weightage?
Well, no, it's not the categories, it's the questions that have different weightages.
Questions that have, okay. Yeah. All right, okay. So probably most of the questions related to customer engagement had higher weightage, and probably that helped you score higher, as you said.
Right, right.
Right. Is there anything that I'm missing out in terms of any other aspect of BCorp certification as regards to eKutir that you might want to throw some light on?
I would suggest that what you could do is go through more about BCorp, right, and have a reading on that and understand more about it. And we could definitely huddle back once again and talk if something was missed, or you believe that there's an important question which needs a response from eKutir for you to validate what you are writing and understanding. So yeah, I'm more than happy to huddle back again with you. But I would mention that you and your team are able to explore more and go in depths with it. And you could as well just go ahead and give a shot at the impact assessment yourself.
Right. So, and the best resource would be the Be the Change website itself.
Yeah. I mean, there's an assessment tool out there which you can start taking it up.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll go through all that stuff, and I'll again go through this video later on and understand what you've said. And if I think there's something that I need to understand more, I'll just ping you, and we can quickly just talk about that.
Oh, definitely. That works for me.
Great. Thanks, Suvankar. Additionally, there's this, you might have received an email from me that I'm doing a project on inequality.
I believe Nidhi also spoke with me, and I've already spoken with Nidhi on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, she's already spoken. Yeah. So after some point, maybe after a couple of months or so, I would like to go out and probably in different parts of the country and see for myself, and maybe shoot it, shoot
Yeah.
how people are at the bottom of the pyramid. How are they rising and trying to rise above their condition,
Right. Right.
and how some of the social entrepreneurs are actually trying to create an economy for these excluded people by
Correct.
working towards including them in the mainstream. So if you think we have some stories that eKutir has generated in Odisha, please feel free to share those stories, and maybe at some point, maybe a couple of months down the line, we could look at scheduling some kind of a shoot in Odisha, get some feedback from people, talk to them on the camera, and things
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
if that's possible. Yeah.
Right. I mean, so you could do that. You could definitely. I can direct you to places in Odisha or even in Bihar if you want to do that. To look into that aspect. Yeah, I could help you out with that too.
See, basically, what I want to capture is the change that's taking place at the grassroots level.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I can take you down to the
Yeah,
field and you
that's
can
been
have an interaction.
facilitated by social entrepreneurs like yourself and others. And how is it actually unfolding? So
Yeah,
the
so I would suggest that you just I just tell you where to go and have someone to accompany you there, so that your entire feedback and the stories that you collect is totally unbiased and untouched by anyone from eKutir. I mean,
right,
that's how I prefer it. Whatever is coming from the people, it has to be undiluted.
right. So so that's just all I want. And yeah, I guess thanks Suvanka for the time
Thank you.
and for the patience of explaining it to me. Uh,
Absolutely. I mean, the real magic is if you want to play around yourself, you'll get to know what kind of process I had to go through as well, because it's
right.
an unending process if you don't have all the information. That's why I said it's the founder of the company that has to play an important role. And of course, you can delegate it to someone trusted for the subsequent recertifications. But the first certification, you should know where you were getting to.
Right. Makes sense. If you think there is some material that you can share with regards to eKutir, which is not because generic material I'll get anyways from B Lab. But if there's something specific
You
with
can
regards to
download the report. You can download the entire
would you be
report from
comfortable
BLab.
sharing,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be happy. Yeah. I'll be happy to receive that and go through the material and understand it.
Just let me know
Because
what
my
materials do you need.
yeah, my idea is to bring to the viewers the how it is to get certified, what the complexity involved, the challenges involved, the kind of mindset that you need to have, and that's the whole idea behind this conversation, is to understand it myself first. If I don't understand it
No,
myself, I probably won't be able to educate the viewers.
no, I do understand.
So yeah,
So you can go through that, download whatever reports you want, and then circle back with me, and I can
sure,
send you further reports you would like to have an understanding of.
sure. All right. Thank you, Suvankar.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Rohan. Let's stay
Bye.
in touch. Take care. Bye.